I love pointing out things that you've never noticed in shows you thought you knew inside out. This afternoon's talk is called Savoring Broadway, and I hope to serve up something delicious. I'll discuss 7 shows that span the last century of modern Broadway. Oklahoma, 1943, Guys and Dolls, 1950, Fiddler on the Roof, 1964, Company, 1970, Rent, 1996, Mamma Mia, 2001, and Waitress, 2016. For each musical, I intend to illustrate for you a few hidden threads that run through the shows that may help you see them differently forever. First, a little about me. I'm the founder and senior instructor at the Broadway Maven, which is a passionate online community that learns together about Broadway's heritage. We've got 8 faculty members, including a Sondheim expert, a Rodgers and Hammerstein expert, professors from Juilliard, Princeton, and the University of Washington, and a young man who teaches music theory from his piano. Every month we do 5 to 15 classes. One week we might look at Gershwin and Mean Girls, and the next might be South Pacific and a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I also publish a weekly Substack called MARQUEE and have a YouTube channel. So fasten your seatbelts, because some of these interpretations are going to be bold, original, and hopefully refreshing. I like finding meaning in character names. For example, is he called Harold Hill because he heralds change in River City? Is Rent's antagonist named Benjamin Coffin III because he represents death? Coffin? Neither Meredith Willson nor Jonathan Larson is around to tell us. So, what gives me the right to make dramatic pronouncements about the meanings of shows whose meanings may never have been intended by the authors? The answer for me comes in something that Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine did in their brilliant show, Into the Woods. In the second act, in a dramatic moment, the authors kill off the narrator by having the characters sacrifice him to the giantess. Now, let me get a little academic on you, but this is easy to follow. The narrator's demise echoes the death of the author literary theory. That movement set aside writerly intent and focused on the text, empowering the reader to find meanings the author may never have intended. So when people ask what gives me the right to make bold pronouncements about shows, I say, if Sondheim can kill off his narrator, nobody's work is off limits. The author doesn't always get the last word. Here's an example of the kinds of insights you can expect from me. In Jewish law, meat and milk must be kept separate, which makes the professions of Laser Wolf, a butcher, and Tevye, a dairyman, precisely the opposite of each other, and epitomizes the antagonism between the two men. And in fact, the coming together of Laser and Tevye in the song To Life may represent the mixing of meat and milk, symbolizing further the breakdown of Jewish traditions that has already been established as a theme of the show. That's the kind of hidden in plain sight detail I want to explore across 8 decades of Broadway. Let's begin. Think you know Oklahoma? We'll see about that. Oklahoma famously shattered the crusty old mold of musical theater with its integrated music, lyrics, book, and dance. Listen to this excerpt near the very beginning of the first show by the first creators of modern musicals, Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. You can sing along if you want. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. These lyrics are totally meta. Oscar Hammerstein is announcing and celebrating a new, beautiful morning in the history of musical theater. He knew exactly what he was doing. And the reference to a maverick, which is a term for an unbranded cow, doubles as an admission that the show was going to clash with previous Broadway standards. Oklahoma was going to be a maverick show, heralding a new, beautiful morning on Broadway. Here's something fun. A vocal echo resounds in Oklahoma. Curly opens the show's first chorus with the quick interjection, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." The Act 2 opener starts with the same interjection, but held longer. "Oh, the farmer and the cowman should be friends." And finally, near the end of the show, the cast sustains a very long O before singing "Oklahoma" in the show's exuberant title song. Thematically, the repeated sound helps shape a show about the increasing unity of society, going from an individual, Curly, to the community, the farmer and the cowman, to the entire territory, Oklahoma. And then there's butter. Butter? Yeah, Rodgers and Hammerstein seemed to think the dairy staple was important enough that they included it in their first two shows, but with opposite symbolism. Oklahoma opens with Aunt Eller churning it, liquid to solid, just as the territory hardens into statehood, and Curly edges toward a settled life. It looks peaceful, but churning is actually violent. Liquid is being beaten into solid, just like the tensions beneath the surface of a new state. And Rodgers and Hammerstein doubled down on butter in their very next show, Kerosene. There, Nettie sings of melted butter during "This Was a Real Nice Clam Bake," solid to liquid, a foreshadowing of a community dissolving into crime, brutality, and death. Feeling lucky? I hope so, because our next show is Guys and Dolls. So the first musical number in Guys and Dolls is like this. It's called Fugue for Tin Horns. Three gamblers launch into "I got the horse right here, his name is Paul Revere," each touting his pick for the next big race. The song's title is a playful contradiction. A fugue is a highbrow classical form. Meanwhile, a tin horn is slang for a petty gambler or someone pretending to be more important than they are, perfectly describing the men bickering over their inside tips. The title's clever wordplay elevates a scene of everyday squabbling into something grand, while the music itself, a contrapuntal blend of overlapping melodies, adds a wink to the idea of turning the tin horn's triviality into high art. From the opening ante, Frank Lesser lays his cards on the table, street slang scored like a symphony, proving that this show hangs out near the corner of Broadway and Bach. The usual reading of the romance between Sky Masterson and Sarah Brown suggests a sharp distinction between gambling and religious devotion. But are the two really all that opposed? In a moment of honesty, Sky admits to Sarah that his real name is Obadiah. In biblical Hebrew, Obadiah means servant of God, a prophet who taught that success comes from providence, not personal skill. For a person of faith, that's the equivalent of a dice game. For most of Sky's life, Lady Luck was his way of letting go. After uniting with Sarah, divine providence played that role. Ironically, the shift began with a sly critique of religious pretense. Sky, new to the mission, displayed unexpected biblical literacy when he correctly identified Sarah's poster with the verse, "There is no peace unto the wicked," as being from Proverbs instead of Isaiah 57:21. The script overlooks the fact that Proverbs has only 31 chapters. Now, I've saved the best part of Guys and Dolls for last, and that's the unforgettable 11 o'clock number in the show, "Sit Down, You're Rockin' the Boat." One line of the song is frequently misheard and misrepresented, and it comes from the song's central singer, Nicely, Nicely Johnson. He's misquoted as saying, "And I hollered, someone save me." The line is actually, "Someone fade me." Now, the confusion is understandable, but fade me is a gambling term, meaning to take the opposite side in a bet. Nicely is metaphorically acknowledging that he's on the losing side, and he's pleading for someone, anyone, to bet against him, just to break the spiral. The phrase perfectly captures the desperation and anxiety of a gambler at the end of his rope, and it cleverly ties into the high-stakes world of Guys and Dolls, where every decision can tip the balance between fortune and ruin. Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles. It's time to look at the world's Jewiest musical, and certainly one of Broadway's favorites, Fiddler on the Roof. If Guys and Dolls is about risk, this show is about balance. Beyond the looming fiddler himself, one of the clearest motifs related to that theme comes in Tevye's constant "on one hand, on the other hand" phrases. More than humorous indecision, that structure reflects his struggle to balance personal and cultural loads without falling, mirroring the fiddler's perilous stance. Another moment of balance that echoes this theme is easier to miss: the bottle dance at Muthel and Seitel's wedding, where male dancers precariously balance bottles on their heads, echoing the show's central theme. In Fiddler, balance isn't just a metaphor, it's spoken, danced, and lived. Just as the theme of balance does double duty in the show, so does the word match in all its senses. Matchmaker, matchmaker, the first sign after the prologue, foreshadows the persecution later to come in the show. The song repeatedly uses match, both in the sense of romantic pairings and of flammable sticks. Tevye's daughters sing "Look through your book" like matchbooks, and "Playing with matches, a girl can get burned." The imagery shows up again in the show's last song, Anatevka, as Tevye mutters, "Someone should have set a match to this place long ago." In Fiddler, matches don't just spark romance, they foreshadow destruction. Now, hold on to your yarmulkes. We're about to dive into the scriptural politics of the show's score. An early lyric in Fiddler on the Roof signals everything that's about to come, if you know what to listen for. In Sabbath prayer, Tevye's family blesses the daughters with a line not found in the traditional Friday night ritual. May you be like Ruth and like Esther. Normally, daughters are blessed with the names of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, but these two choices go straight to theme. Ruth gave up her people for love, and Esther intermarried to save hers. It's a quiet clue that Fiddler won't just be about tradition, it'll be about transgression. And sure enough, by the end of Act 2, Chava has married outside the faith. The line in the prayer wasn't just poetic, it was prophetic. This is a story where bloodlines bend, and notice that the line, keep them from the stranger's ways, is a plea for isolation that Chava was designed to abandon. Ready for some Stephen Sondheim? Hold me too close, because we're looking at a few things about company that you may have missed. Company is filled with metaphors for the aloneness of our main character, Bobby. When Bobby's girlfriends, or in the most recent version, boyfriends, sing "You Could Drive a Person Crazy," three metaphors stand out. There is the sexual innuendo of titillates a person and then leaves her flat. The witty rhyme between when a person's personality is personable and it's harder than a matador coercionable, critiquing Bobby's stubborn passivity. And the strangest of all, a man who likes pulling hooks out of fish. What? Well, pulling hooks out of fish both hurts them and liberates them. This duality captures Bobby's contradictory behavior. While he avoids deep emotional ties, he inadvertently frees his girlfriends from the possibility of a truly committed relationship, leaving them both hurt and unburdened. Only Sondheim would make sexual innuendo, bullfighting, and fishhooks all metaphors for one man's loneliness. Late in Company, the setting for the song Barcelona involves Bobby lying in bed. A perfect posture for a man who's lying to himself and others. In the after-sex afterglow of a hookup with a nearly nameless flight attendant, Bobby urges his bedfellow to stay with him instead of going to Barcelona. But his desire for her continued companionship is a lie, as we discover when April decides to stay, and he reacts, "Oh God." By capturing Bobby's immediate regret and fear of intimacy, Barcelona becomes a lens through which we can view his larger journey of self-discovery. And truly, the bed is a perfect place for an aha moment, for a man who's made having sex with multiple women part of his identity. Oh, and here's something interesting. Sondheim hid a word inside the name of the song Barcelona. Do you hear it? Barce alone. Yet another subtle but stunning example of Sondheim's genius. Now, I scoured everywhere I could think of, critics, forums, even AI, and found no evidence anyone has made this point, which actually seems pretty obvious once it's mentioned. Discovering new angles is something I like to do with old shows, and in this case, I like to see something that Sondheim has put in one of his most famous shows. Let's look at the show that turned Broadway on its head in the 1990s, Rent. One is the show's slogan, which is "No day but today." The other is the show's most famous, most sympathetic character, who is Angel. So what a lot of people miss is that Angel doesn't believe in No Day But Today. How do we know? Because Angel's first meets us singing, "Today for you, tomorrow for me." The lyric is rather ironic, given that its meaning, that we can delay gratification for the future, is the exact opposite of what is usually considered the show's theme. No Day But Today. Given Angel's role as the show's emotional touchstone, the disparity is glaring once you think about it. The tension between living for today and planning for tomorrow is baked into the show's DNA, whether Jonathan Larson meant it or not. Now, let's get both thematic and granular at the same time. The key line to understanding Rent is making something out of nothing, from La Vie Bohème. Usually the idiom means exaggerating. But what if we take it literally? The sick, queer, poor, trans, and homeless residents of Alphabet City are taking responsibility for their own lives, making them something. And here's the kicker. On a meta level, so does the show itself, which shines a spotlight on marginal people and situations, creating a vivid and sympathetic portrayal of lives that had rarely made it to the Broadway stage. Finally, let's take a moment in Rent, every moment counts, to recognize that nothing looms over the show more than time. Like the perpetually overdue expense of the title, life is an unpaid bill that could evict them at any moment. The young bohemians are haunted by mortality's deadline in the shadow of AIDS, forcing a frantic countdown, 525,600 minutes. They know another year isn't guaranteed, so they count existence urgently, not in cups of coffee or even laughter and strife, but through something deeper. Scrappy and bound by community, they measure in love instead. Their fierce connections, shared struggles, and fleeting joys turning borrowed time into a defiant, emotional ledger. So let's head to the island of Kalikari in Greece as we explore our next show, Mamma Mia. We think Mamma Mia is about Sophie trying to discover her father, but the first full number, Honey Honey, points us somewhere else. Sophie rifles through Donna's diary with a mix of laughter and awe, imitating her mother's younger voice. Yet as the lyrics unfold, the tone shifts. I'd heard about you before, I wanted to know some more, and now I'm about to see what you mean to me. That's no longer Donna speaking, it's Sophie herself, searching for a mother she barely knows. The stage version even eliminates ABBA's cheeky line, "You're a love machine," replacing innuendo with revelation. Beneath the disco sparkle, Mamma Mia isn't really a paternity quest. It's a daughter's quest to understand her mother as a full human being. Midway through, Donna brushes Sophie's hair in front of a mirror during Slipping Through My Fingers. No sequins, no dads, just two women, quietly reflecting on each other and themselves. For Donna, the song is not only a lament about her daughter growing up, but also a confession of regret over the adventures she missed doing it alone. For Sophie, the mirror suggests stasis. She sits silent, watching life happen around her. By the finale, their positions reverse. Donna accepts marriage and a second chance at companionship, while Sophie steps back from the altar, choosing a relationship with Sky that's not constricted by marital bonds. That mirror scene proves to be the emotional hinge of the show. It captures how Mamma Mia is really a story of role reversal, a kind of Freaky Friday without the body swap, told through ABBA songs and maternal reckoning. The last symbol I want to discuss with you is that of gambling. The topic comes up a lot in both the dialogue and the lyrics. Donna says Sky is helping her plan a floating casino. She sings in Money, Money, Money. I have to go to Las Vegas or Monaco and win a fortune in a game. My life will never be the same. And in The Winner Takes It All, it's no more ace to play. The gods may throw the dice. Why all the references to games of chance? Well, the show is about risk-taking, especially in matters of the heart. So gambling talk underscores the show's themes, even if we don't notice it. Let's go on to the last show, Waitress. But before we touch on the themes, I want to focus on the show's title. At first, it seems to be a simple reference to Jenna's job, but it carries a deeper meaning, too. Jenna spends much of the musical waiting for the right moment to leave her abusive husband, for her life to improve, for something better to arrive. This thematic undercurrent turns her role as a waitress into a symbol of paralysis and longing. However, by the end of the show, Jenna rejects passivity, deciding to take control of her destiny. The title then transforms, signifying how she has stopped waiting and started living, rewriting her own recipe for happiness. Now, the theme of opening up, the first production number in Waitress, is apt, both because the servers are getting the diner ready for the day, and because that day represents the moment Jenna starts to open up and transform her stuck life. And indeed, the whole show is about that concept, as all three waitresses find their romantic lives and broader horizons expanded by Jenna's renewed vigor. For quirky, timid Dawn, the song marks her whimsical romance with Ogie and her ability to step out of her comfort zone in the pursuit of happiness. Becky finds the courage to seek happiness outside her troubled marriage, which infuses her life with newfound self-worth and independence. Now, we finish in the sweet spot for the Broadway Maven, where theme and content meet. In Waitress, mixing and separating aren't just baking terms, they're metaphors for love and identity. Jenna, a natural mixer, creates pies that blend chaotic elements into harmony, reflecting her ability to embrace life's messiness and find beauty in imperfection. Around her, however, are characters who prefer separation. Joe demands his potato on its own plate, symbolizing his emotional detachment. Becky's bedridden husband sleeps in a separate room, trapping her in isolation. And Dawn and Ogie share a quirky insistence on keeping their food from touching, a reflection of their guarded individuality. Yet Jenna's influence encourages them all to mix. Joe urges her to take risks and pursue her dreams. Dawn and Ogie overcome their quirks to build a life together. And Becky steps out of her static situation to embrace a new relationship with Cal. In Waitress, mixing life's unpredictable elements, though messy and uncertain, becomes the essential ingredient for fulfillment. So, what ties together Rodgers and Hammerstein's butter, Lesser's gamblers, Tevia's bottles, Bobby's fishhooks, Angel's contradictions, Donna's diary, and Jenna's pies? It's the idea that Broadway shows never are just entertainment. They're recipes of meaning, waiting to be savored. My hope is that today you've tasted a few new flavors in familiar shows, and that you'll keep discovering hidden ingredients on your own.